Hi, my name is Allie, and I'm going to be presenting about the Volkswagen emissions scandal. So a little background on the company. It's a German-founded automobile company founded in 1937, and their cars became established in America by 1955. And basically the scandal is that in September of 2015, Volkswagen was accused by the Environment Protection Agency for manipulating their company's engine controls to be able to pass emissions tests. So basically what initially happened, as I said, they were manipulating their company's engine controls to be able to pass these emissions tests. So the company put a certain software into their automobiles engines to know when they're going through an emissions test. And so basically they go through the test and then they would come, like customers would buy them, and then all those regulations about certain fuels and nitrogens weren't actually true. And so not only like the company was breaking the law, but they were also lying to their customers, thinking that their cars were more environmentally friendly. The company was violating the Clean Air Act by selling vehicles that didn't meet environmental standards. And also the CEO, Martin Winterkorn, gave his consent to the scheme and saying that he knows that they cheated and misled regulators. So what type of crisis is this? I define this as a preventable cluster crisis, which includes and means that there was human error and product harm and organizational misleads. This company was in control of this crisis because they were unethical in choosing ways to cheat through the emissions test instead of actually going through them with a environmentally friendly vehicle. The company was in control of this mistake and could have been avoided if they followed ethical guidelines. So that's why I would define this as a preventable cluster crisis. So how did Volkswagen respond? The CEO, Martin Winterkorn, spoke out on an only 2-minute video statement, which basically denied any responsibility that had to do with the scandal. I'd show you the clip, but it's all in German, but I'll just sum it up for you. He states how he is confused and unaware of the situation. He apologizes profusely to his customers for the damage that their company has caused. The company has claimed that only an individual designer of these engines did this without anyone knowing without the CEO knowing. He just designed this and the CEO didn't approve. So that was the overall statement that he gave. I'm not going to show you, but okay, so the press on the response. I found this particularly interesting because the press was absolutely not convinced with the CEO, Martin Winterkorn, and what he was saying, how he had no idea about these engines and how they were cheating, and he was unaware of the situation. So I'm gonna just show a short clip of the overall kind of summary of how the press reacted to this previous statement.
Since the scandal broke at the end of last week, CEO Martin Winterkorn, or former CEO, I should say, of Volkswagen, Martin Winterkorn, attempted to distance himself from the scandal, which was almost impossible given that he was very much in the spotlight with the finger of guilt pointed at him, and a huge chorus of voices, especially here in Germany, calling over the last few days for him to resign, which he completely rejected. He said that he did not take responsibility for this defective software that cheated emissions tests. He said he had no knowledge of it. But as the media was pointing out over the last few days, how could this man, who was the CEO of the company and a very experienced engineer, not know about this software? Well, it seems today that Winterkorn, after experiencing, which I'm sure was a very tough inquiry by the 5 leading executive committee members of Volkswagen's supervisory board, decided himself to resign as CEO. In his statement, he reiterated.
So I just want to sum up the first part she said. I quoted it, how she was like, he attempted to distance himself from the scandal, which was almost impossible because he is the CEO and everybody's been kind of pointing guilt on him. So overall, the press was just not convinced about him not knowing that this happened, and how he was denying it in his statement.
Since the scandal broke at the end of
So this is corporate apologia theory of denial, basically because this means like applies to this organization because they were defensively claiming that they were uninvolved in the crisis, but still apologizes for the wrongdoing. His statement he gave, it was him apologizing, but he still didn't know how it happened. And this statement, as I already said, would fall under the category of denial because um, the company was apologetic, but they still were denying that they knew this was going on, even though there's just, as the press said, that there's no way that he couldn't have known about this cheating of the emissions test. So the initial response that he took in his statement was denial posture, because it was by scapegoating their involvement to their automobile. They were saying that they weren't involved. It was only this automobiles maker fault because he designed this without them approving it. So and basically overall saying that they had nothing to do with the emissions test. So there's a lot of backlash on Volkswagen. In 2016, the Federal Trade Commissions ordered Volkswagen to pay a $20 billion in fines and also to invest in green technologies. Martin Winterkorn, the CEO, was indicted in January 2016, along with 5 other Volkswagen executives on charges of conspiracy and fraud in connection with a year-long scheme of Volkswagen to cheat on auto emissions tests. So they did get in trouble for cheating on these tests, and it was really harmful to their overall reputation. And they also had to recall over 10 million automobiles worldwide. There was also a class action lawsuit that made Volkswagen pay 14.7 billion settlement to their affected customers. So the customer response is they marketed that these vehicles were more eco-friendly and they were basically going to be diesel cars, and their customers bought these believing that that was true. And so according to The Guardian, there was 86 of Volkswagen drivers are concerned about the environmental impact of their car, while 83 questioned the impact on its resale value, and 73 feared the performance of their vehicle would be affected. More than half of the customers said that they were going to put off from buying a Volkswagen diesel car in the future. So all the customers after this scandal were very concerned about their car that they've just purchased and the quality and reliability of the vehicles from Volkswagen. So overall, this really hurt Volkswagen's reputation of producing well-made cars. My overall recommendations for the company, I would start off with the company should have just, number one, followed the emissions laws and not have lied to customers to begin with. It just made customers feel like they were being false advertised, lied to, and now they're dealing with cars that have less value and are worse for their environment than they originally thought they were when purchasing it. And they should have also have taken responsibility for cheating on their emissions test instead of lying. Everybody knew that the CEO was involved, and so I feel like it would have been better if he came out and said that he was, instead of just acting oblivious to the whole situation. The first response was released way too quickly. In his statement, he had said that there were a lot of questions that he didn't know the answer to, and I think he should have just waited until he did know those answers to those questions, because the statement was kind of just all over the place saying he was confused and it just didn't really answer anyone's questions. And also the CEO's response should have acknowledged the impact that the crisis had on customers. Instead of focusing on the reputation of the company, he didn't really acknowledge that this was overall hurting his customers. My other recommendations to rebuilding customer relationships, the company needs to apologize to their consumers for lying and putting guilt about now they are in charge of harming the environment because of their vehicle that they purchased. The company should also acknowledge their impact on the environment and attempt to fix that problem and kind of more to help their reputation advertise that they're a more green company after what has happened. There should have been a statement acknowledging the inconvenience this put on customers from the scandal. Basically, all their customers now that purchased these cars that didn't pass the emissions test, they're dealt with them, and they gave no information about how they should return them or, get their money back, or basically the price value that is for that car now, and also the environmental impacts that they carry from driving that vehicle. Then the post scandal, Volkswagen should have provided information to their customers, as I said, about how to proceed with recalls and get compensation for their car. So overall, I think Volkswagen could have handled this differently. I think number one, starting with not cheating on the emissions test, and also kind of giving a more put together statement, and also acknowledging their customer relationships more. So here are my references, and thanks for listening.